Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Illuminati, the man who rules the world, takes on the head of the global elite in this all-new action-packed John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' Illuminati in paperback and e-readers at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. The FBI arrested an 18-year-old man for planning a series of terror attacks in the name of the Islamic State.
Tonight, an Idaho teenager is facing federal terrorism charges for an alleged plan to attack churches in the name of ISIS. The Justice Department says the 18-year-old was arrested on Saturday, just one day before launching a plot where he planned to use guns, knives, and flammable chemicals. CBS's Elise Preston reports the FBI was already on nationwide alert.
The FBI believes 18-year-old Alexander Mercurio was plotting deadly terror attacks on multiple Christian churches in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. According to court documents, Mercurio had pledged his allegiance to ISIS and his intention to die while killing others, using makeshift flamethrowers, a machete, and other weapons found in his home by the FBI, which says he communicated with other radicalized individuals on his school-issued computer.
The profile of this individual is not surprising. The large majority of them are male and typically are quite young. ISIS and its proxies do retain the ability and the intent to try to conduct an attack here in the homeland.
Today, this from FBI Director Christopher Wray.
And the potential for a coordinated attack here in the homeland is now increasingly concerning.
It's a concern worldwide. ISIS-K claimed responsibility for this attack at a Russian concert hall last month. At least 144 were killed. Here at home, a just-released intelligence bulletin warns of a potential threat of violence targeting mass gatherings, such as sports stadiums, concert venues, or houses of worship.
It definitely sounds the alarm to the average American at home.
It is a fact that we're in a heightened threat environment. We as Americans need to live our lives, but we also need to do so while being incredibly vigilant.
There are at least 21 known extremist groups operating in Idaho, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center. Court documents show the FBI was tracking Mercurio for nearly 2 years. He's expected in court tomorrow. Nora? Wow, that's some good work by the FBI. Elise Preston, thank you so much.
Now, according to reports, 18-year-old Alexander Mercurio was arrested by the FBI and the Department of Justice for attempting to provide material support to the terrorist organization known as the Islamic State, or ISIS. And Alexander Mercurio was arrested for attempting to create a plan to participate in terror attacks against Christian churches in Idaho, and had a plan to subdue his father and take his firearms to carry out this suicide attack on churches in Coeur d'Alene. And as he made these plans to participate in this alleged suicide attack, he planned to use flame-covered weapons, explosives, knives, a machete, and a pipe, and firearms, and planned a more precise attack with each passing day, and eventually had a specific church and date where he wished to plan the first of his assaults. However, before he was able to plan this terror attack on these churches, the FBI and the Department of Justice arrested 18-year-old Alexander Mercurio and took him into custody. Now, the FBI and the Department of Justice see the actions of Alexander Mercurio as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of the alleged behavior of Alexander Mercurio, it fits the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis, and it also fits the pattern and profile for cyber simps that I talk about in my book, Stop Simping in Cyberspace. And Alexander Mercurio was one of these individuals who got radicalized because he was one of these beta males who was raised to live in a rose-colored reality. Now, with beta males, they do not live in the real world with the rest of us. No, oftentimes they live in a rose-colored reality that's adjacent to the real world. And in that rose-colored reality, everything is completely distorted. And when these individuals enter a place like the internet, they do not have the critical thinking skills to discern information from misinformation. And as a result of these males not being able to discern information from misinformation, what happens with a beta male when they go on the internet is they will go on a website, and if it tells them something that makes them feel good, what they will do is take that misinformation as the truth. And as they take that misinformation as the truth, what these males do is start to believe this information. Moreover, what they do is try to go find more misinformation to further reinforce their points. And this is how a beta male winds up in what I call an echo chamber. Now, in this echo chamber, the beta male is being told what he wants to hear because it makes him feel good. And this is further reinforced by more websites that tell him more misinformation. And as he's reading and listening to all of this misinformation, he's taking it all as the truth and looking to find a way to find more validation and approval from those online who believe in this same misinformation. And this is where Alexander Mercurio started to create a covert contract between him and the terrorist organization known as Islamic State. And as he created this covert contract, he thought he could gain favor with them by creating this chaos with this planned terror attack, which he planned to attack Christian churches. And as he made these plans to attack these Christian churches, he basically showed how he was not really looking to live in our world, but live in a world adjacent to it, where he believed that he would be able to act on these fantasies that he planned. And in those fantasies he planned to attack the Christian churches in Coeur d'Alene by using these flame-covered weapons, explosives, knives, a machete, a pipe, and firearms, and planned to do this by attacking his father and taking his weapons. Now, these were all plans that he made based on his feelings without ever thinking critically about any of this. No, this was a plan that he imagined in his head, and he imagined this whole plan in his head without ever thinking about how he was going to do this. Yes, he had these ideas in his head, and he talked to people with this online, but never really understood how things worked in the real world. And one of the things he did not understand is that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This is something men in the real world understand, but beta males don't understand this, so they'll plan these elaborate attacks where they look to do harm to people, not ever thinking once that, yes, you may making these plans to do harm to someone, but there's always a plan of others to push back against you. This is something that never comes in the head of the beta male, because all they're thinking about is two things. One, gaining validation and approval from other men online in their social circles of these echo chambers, and two, thinking about getting the power that they feel like they don't have as a man. And Alexander Mercurio had possibly felt powerless ever since he was 16 years old, because when he was 16 years old, this is when he started getting involved with these radical websites online. And as he started getting involved with these radical websites online, this is where he started to create this completely rose-colored idea of looking to participate in supporting the Islamic State as related to their terror campaigns. And as he listened to this misinformation, he thought that he would again gain support in that covert contract he planned. However, as he was making these plans online, he didn't know that he was basically not talking to other radicalized individuals, but he was actually talking to agents of the FBI and informants of the FBI. And as those agents and informants of the FBI went out here and were talking to him online, they were building a case against him in the real world. And before he could go out and implement his plans, what happened was agents from the FBI and the Department of Justice came and arrested 18-year-old Alexander Mercurio, and thank God stopped him before he could go out here and participate in providing that material support to support the Islamic State by participating in this suicide mission that would have cost many lives. I mean, thank God this man was caught before he could do harm to anyone. However, the most dangerous thing besides this man is the whole mindset that this male had. Now, the mindset that this male had is a classic part of the whole beta male mindset, because the beta male doesn't, again, live in the real world. And because he doesn't live in the real world, this is what makes him a clear and present danger on spaces like cyberspace, because in the beta male's mind, their whole frame of thinking is that everything online is real and true. And the whole thing is these men do not have that critical thinking to understand that you have to really filter the information that you get online, because when it comes to online, you have a lot of different sources, and many of these sources are not really good ones. I mean, some of them are out here, they are presenting you with radical opinions that people have and presenting it as facts, whether it be these radical religious sites or these far left or far right political sites. You're getting polarized misinformation that does not present you with any sort of fact whatsoever objectively. No, you're getting subjective opinions. And with these beta males, because these men feel instead of think, what they're looking to do is seek out in what they think are sites and sources that will validate the ideas that they are in their feelings about. And that's not the way you do research. No, you have to do research based objectively on looking at both sides of an argument, and that's what critical thinkers do. They look at all of the sides of an argument and look for not only the point, but the counterpoint as well. But with beta males, what they look for is misinformation and propaganda, stuff that tells them what they want to hear. And as they're looking for things that tell them what they want to hear and look for things that make them feel good, what they do is wind up getting radicalized and indoctrinated by this misinformation to believe that this is the gospel truth. And as they believe it's the gospel truth, they believe that they are justified in going after whatever enemy they're told is in that misinformation. And in the case of this radicalized 18-year-old, he thought that he, as a sympathizer to the Islamic State, could go out here and look to go after the enemies, which he thought were the Christian church, and again wanted to do this because he was following a whole lot of misinformation, and in his rose-colored reality he believed this misinformation was the truth. And this is again what makes beta males dangerous, is that these males, again, they do not know how to really process information with critical thinking, logic, and reason. No, because they are raised to feel and not think. What they do is act impulsively on things that they see online. And when they act impulsively on what you see online by just believing what you hear, that's what makes you a threat to everyone. And again, that's not how you process information. Men process information by listening to information, but then as they listen to it, they look to find more than one source, and they look to find more than one source so that you can get not only a point, but you can get a counterpoint as well, and you can get different points to give you perspective so you can get a clear picture of the objective facts. This is what I do when I go out and do research for books like The Man Crisis or the Stop Simping in Cyberspace book. I often go looking for multiple sources in order to make sure that I get concrete information to present people with objective fact. I don't want people to have a place where they're going to be in an echo chamber. No, I want people to get objective information so that they can go out here and make make choices based on critical thinking, because critical thinking is all about taking all of the sources to come up with a conclusion. And again, when it comes to the internet, that's very hard to do, because on the internet, a lot of people, they spread opinion as fact, and some spread lies and misinformation as fact. And this is one of the reasons why I take a lot of information I get online with a grain of salt, unless I can get it verified by legitimate sources. I want to make sure that all the information I get is on point, and I want to make sure it's on point so that I go out here and present objective facts to people. But when it comes to the beta male, they just go with propaganda or slanted misinformation, and that's what gets these guys into trouble, because as they're in their echo chambers listening to these radicalized statements, whether again they be from religious organizations or political organizations, what they do is they're so polarized that that they don't even think before they act. And when they do this, what they do is put their intangibles, like their freedom, in jeopardy. And that's what happened here to 18-year-old Alexander Mercurio, who was an 18-year-old man who had his whole life ahead of him, and now he won't have his whole life ahead of him, because now with these federal charges, he is sure to wind up with a federal sentence inside of a federal supermax prison, where he will not see the light of day outside of 1 hour a day inside of that supermax prison, because when you participate in supporting a terrorist, this is where they put people who support terrorism. They put them in the supermax, and in the supermax, you don't even have to deal with Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, or Mr. Sprinkles. No, this is a place where you will just be there for the rest of your life in isolation, and be in that place because this man, again, couldn't function in the real world because he was too caught up in a rose-colored reality. And because he was caught up in this rose-colored reality, he went from being a man who had his freedom to winding up being a man in crisis. Now, if you want to learn more about what leads to beta males being in these rose-colored realities where they can't see real people, the real world, or real consequences, and how this dysfunctional life paradigm really destroys a boy's life as he grows up to become a man, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft Digital, Google Play, Smashwords, the iBookstore, Barnes & Noble, and even big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to learn what leads to many of these individuals winding up on the internet and winding up getting caught up in an echo chamber, you can pick up my book, Stop Simping in Cyberspace, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find Stop Simping in Cyberspace at other online booksellers like Draft Digital, the iBookstore, Google Play, Walmart, Target, and other online booksellers. And if you want to see me make more videos about the Man Crisis, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Now available in paperback and Kindle, Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Learn how to avoid predatory females like Instagram models and e-girls in their virtual con games with Stop Simping in Cyberspace. Get your copy of Stop Simping in Cyberspace in paperback and Kindle today.
Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.